And take it away, John Fletcher.
Thank you very much, Mark. We're here to welcome our special guest, as you mentioned, Jason McCann, who's the co-founder and CEO of Vari, formerly known as Varidesk, and also VariSpace, which is building out right now and will be opening first part of August in Southlake. Jason was actually our scheduled speaker for last Thursday's luncheon, which obviously was postponed. You notice not canceled, postponed. Jason, we still want you in person. We look forward to having you back sometime soon.
Looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
That's great. You've come a long way since 2013 with your sit-stand desks. And of course, you do all aspects of everything from sales, design, customer service, distribution, and culture. You were named 2016 the fastest growing business in the Dallas area. In 2017, Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year. That's a big time award. Speak all around the nation. It tells you even spoke to the Australian Parliament about office space and about workplace innovations. Why don't you tell us about that real quick?
Yeah, we were invited early on. I didn't realize Australia actually leads most of the research on health and wellness in the workspace. And I'd never been to Australia, but we've done millions and millions of dollars of business in Australia. They were some of our early fans. So invited to come speak at Parliament, so that in Canberra. So my first trip to Australia, I literally got to fly in, talk to in Canberra to all the leading researchers on health and wellness in the workspace. And it was a great global forum to talk to them. And it just shows you that there's such an impact out there that health and wellness really matters in the workspace.
Well, great. What gave you the idea to start the company?
Yeah, so I was president of another company called Gemmy Industries, and you probably know it. Every Halloween and Christmas, you see all those inflatables on your yards out there. Those are designed by a company here in Capel called Gemmy that sells through Lowe's, Home Depot, and Walmart. Also created the singing fish, Big Mouth Billy Bass, and Dan founded that. There's about 25 million of you out there that may still have one, the singing fish. And so I was president of that company, and Dan had founded that back in 1985, and he was experiencing back pain. And so the idea was, hey, I need to stand up more. So he was standing at a cardboard box, and we were trying to find some standing desks for Dan. This would have been in 2012. And really, Dan dreamt up what became that first Varidesk that everybody knows us for. And he dreamt up the product. Our head of design came in, David, and started drawing it. And what we realized is we had a totally different company. So we spun off the entity and started selling Varidesks. And today we've got over 3 million people worldwide in over 130 countries that use that original product. And along that journey, as we listened to fans and they started asking for anti-fatigue mats and for monitor arms, it got us into thinking about what else could we create. And so we started to elevate our vision for the company.
Wow. So tell us about the change of the name recently from Varidesk to Vari.
Yeah, so you think about all these, you got millions of people that know us and have been using the original Varidesk product that slid out of the box and stood up. But as we moved our headquarters across the street, we walked into an office and we ripped out the ceiling and polished the concrete floors. And we started to dream about building the company of our dreams. And so we said, if in the perfect world, we wouldn't put up that much sheetrock because businesses are always changing. So we created a patented wall system called QuickFlex where the walls move. We put a coffee bar in the front because we said when employees walk in or guests, we wanted everybody to be engaged in these spaces throughout. And what happened was as clients started to tour our space, well, they said, I want all of this, which became a much bigger vision for the product. And we said, well, let's start selling these other products and solutions. And as we started to go down the journey and realize that Varidesk was a product, that we started to say we need to transform and elevate the name. So we used the same company that helped Federal Express go from Federal Express, for those of you that remember, to FedEx. And we started talking to them about what would be possible. So we simplified the brand about 6 months ago to Vari and launched a campaign to really showcase us creating workspaces that elevate people and all the new products that we're offering, from soft seating to walls and marker boards and about 200 different products that we provide today.
Well, so in that sense, you listen to your customers and then you kind of evolved with where they were wanting you to take them.
Yeah, it's interesting when you have that direct relationship with the end user of the product, and we learned this early on with the Varidesk, they give you feedback, so we were able to improve the product. And by listening and having that direct relationship, you get all the online reviews, people writing the good, the bad, and the ugly. But taking all that data and taking all those meeting points, you can start to increase your business. And so by listening to the fans that walked into our space and by reading the reviews, we were able to create new products. So it gave us the idea for the walls, and could we do LED lights, and could we think about workspace in a different way, all by getting that feedback. So our original product was improved over 22 times on its journey just by listening to customers and getting better feedback. We've created over 200 products now that are in the market, and I've got another 300 that we're developing right now, all dreamt around creating the workspace of the future. So we've been able to tour amazing companies like Google and Facebook on the West Coast, incredible companies in New York, here in Dallas, Fort Worth, all these great companies and headquarters. And all these CEOs talk about, I need flexibility and change, especially in today's market. So how can we help that? So by listening, what we realize is we can simplify the furniture procurement process and really start the design services, installation services, which is all core tenets to our brand.
Great. So tell us about your new VeriSpace project in Southlake. We're happy to be home, actually very proud to be the home of such a high-profile project.
Yeah, so what we learned is that we started working with more and more clients all throughout the country. So we have over 25,000 corporate customers. And we started doing design services for them. So I said, hey, could you lay out my space for me and help me create it? Also, could you install the furniture? And so we've been adding all of these services to our offering. And our business model, as we started to go down the journey, was built selling furniture direct. So in the furniture industry operates a lot like the automotive industry. So there's a handful of manufacturers, over 1,000 dealers out there, and it's a very painful process for those of you that have done office space in the past. And so as we've started to simplify this process and say we can design the product, we can create the product, we can design your space, and then we can set it up and install it, we can also flex the space as your business needs change. Because I've been in business, I've gone bust before, I recognize that business is not this nice, smooth journey. It's it's ups and downs and the grind of getting through the business. And clients started to coming to us and saying, what about doing my whole space? What about just taking care of everything? So we started talking to building owners about putting our products in, and could we create something even better, a complete solution? Because at the end of the day, they want to walk in and everything be done for them, from the convergence of hospitality amenities along with workspace. We dreamt of, why don't we just create VeriSpace? And so we bought that beautiful building in Southlake at 114 in Kirkwood that I think is, everybody knows the building. It's gorgeous right there. One of the great points of Southlake, but it's been empty for over 12 years, almost 400,000 square feet of empty space. And we're literally reimagining the entire thing and transforming it into the workspace of the future. And so VeriSpace Southlake will be our second location. Our first one's in Las Colinas, and it's already 90% leased. This will be our second one, and we're literally going through the process of transforming it, and it will look just like our headquarters, have the latest LED lights, cool common areas, a brand new food establishment, and clients will be ready to move in starting in August. So we're excited. We're going through negotiations right now, so we're hoping to bring some more great companies to the Southlake area.
So in that sense, you'll be almost you're using terms very much like Disney World, the Tomorrowland, whatever it might be. So you're really the Disney experience for office space. That's going to be interesting. Yeah. Tell us about the size companies that y'all are approaching or that are expressing the most interest. So you've got 400,000 square feet. What size companies need to be talking to you?
Yeah, the ideal client. So we think about that there's a shift out there for clients that are looking for anywhere from 10,000 square feet, and that could be 50 plus employees, up to we can host as large as 300,000 plus square feet, so thousands of employees. So we're talking to tenants that can potentially take 100,000 square feet, 90,000 square feet, no less than 10,000 square feet. So larger clients. And if you imagine it, what's happened out there is you think about all the pain points that people have that have gone out to office furniture or to think about workspace, and it's a very laborious, long process. And CEOs and leaders out there don't want to think about all the pain points that come along with the workspace of tomorrow. They want to focus on driving their business. So by blending all these hospitality amenities, having on-site gyms, great food amenities, cool coffee bar, and you think about the subtle details of a space. So when you walk into the Shangri-La Hotel, for those of you that have been in one, you immediately are impacted by the smell, the music that's playing. So we do subtle details like the scent machines, the music that plays in the restrooms and common areas, again, creating the energy of the space so these great companies can be housed there and expand and their businesses can move. The other thing we learned is that because our walls move, because we don't put up a bunch of sheetrock, every few years as your business needs change, we don't just rip out all that sheetrock and toss it into a landfill. We actually move our walls. So they're aluminum and steel and glass. We're able to move them and transport them. And it's really thinking about almost a maker space or a shop, but from an office perspective that allows you to dream about the future of workspace. So I think we're right on the forefront of where it's going to be. The other macro trend out there, and you're seeing it impacted really fast today, is people want shorter term leases. So we'll sign up as 3 to 5 year leases with options as opposed to a traditional 10-year lease. So clients come in, the space is immediately ready. They can move in 30 to 60 days, sometimes faster, and they walk in and everything's done for them. So it's just like going into a great hotel and everything's done for you. So really thinking about the workspace of the future. It's going to be a beautiful space. I can't wait for y'all to come see it.
Oh, that's incredible. So tell us a little bit about who does somebody reach out to? Who's your leasing agent that somebody needs to be talking to?
Yeah, so the team at Cushman & Wakefield, so Chris Taylor and Johnny Johnson have been incredible, and I think Chris lives in one of your neighborhoods over there, so awesome. And they were able to help us kickstart this program because it's a very different way to think about workspace. And so with the Las Colinas initiative, it's been fantastic to get that one almost fully leased, and to now they're already doing tours of that. So Cushman & Wakefield has represented us, and we've shown lots of clients from all over the country. So they're all under non-disclosure agreements that have been looking at it. And I think it's been beautiful to see it come to life. And even in these times with masks on and the teams have been working socially distanced to get everything under the latest guidelines. So we've been doing the little things like temperature checks and all that, even at our headquarters here since the COVID piece happened, just to make sure that we don't have any gaps there while we get the space ready for August.
Okay. Tell us about, I know that I see a lot of your posts on LinkedIn. Tell us about the culture at Vari, because there's so many lighthearted moments that you have that your team shares. Tell us about that and about how your space concept is conducive to that.
Yeah, I think if as a CEO, especially when your organization is smaller, you're able to hire everybody and get everything right. So you're hiring people that are like-minded or complement you. And so you are creating the culture of the organization. And then as you start to expand your business, what you recognize is you don't get to know all the employees. We have over 350 employees. I don't quite know everybody. I don't know about their kids and dogs and their families as much as when you're a smaller organization. So we went through a process and really defined our core values. And so as you're thinking about at a macro level, defining those core values, and then your culture is ultimately built on top of that. So as you hire people that embody those core values, they add to the DNA and the fabric of the culture of your organization. And so we've been blessed here to win best places to work, both nationally and locally from a headquarters or from a company standpoint, which is incredible for recruiting, but it tells us that we're doing a lot of things right. And as we think about workspace, getting these little things and details right, workspace, we believe we can create workspaces that elevate people and transform culture through getting the workspace right. So if you get the people part right, you give them the tools to be successful wherever they're working, and you create the energy of your space, we believe that that will enhance your culture as you're recruiting more and more people, and the flywheel effect can be huge. And so little things that everybody could do. So obviously we had a single coffee bar in the beginning, and so everybody was mingling and meeting there from a team standpoint. The little details about music when you walk into the lobby, and the culture team is at the front, but also the hosting of events or right now I'm doing weekly meetings with my team via Zoom, but we have a stage on site, so we're able to interact and just creating that policy. And you think about even from a space standpoint, I don't have an office door. I have literally the walls are set up and are open. So there's an accessibility that happens for all of the leadership and the team. So they know me and they know what our vision is. So we're very clear about communicating what we're trying to do. So all those things start to help you transform the culture as you think about scaling your business.
I love the fun you talked about elevating the experience, since that's exactly what your desk does. It actually elevates. So that's clever. Tell us about how the new normal is going to change cultures inside companies.
Well, I think a lot of things. I think all of us have been hit by this shock that's hit the system. And so businesses have been impacted differently depending on which one. So there was initially for us a supply shock that hit our system where we didn't have product in Asia. So we started to recognize, and we've been through H1N1 and SARS and these other things in our other business. So we started to recognize that something big was going to happen. Obviously, I had no idea it was going to be as bad as it was to our system, where the demand shock has actually hit our system. So what immediately we did, and I think a lot of great companies started to do, is say we've got to over communicate with our teams. So for us, that meant daily communication. So I literally write an email every single day to the staff about what's going on, and leaning into the values of the organization and over communicating everything that's going on out there. So the team knows that I'm feeling the same stress levels that they're feeling, so that the team can ask any question that they want. So I just sent out my all company email right before this. The other things you got to think about is health and wellness. So you think about that, whether some people are home alone, some people are home and they've got kids and dogs and loved ones and grandparents, spouse may have been laid off. Everybody's dealing with a lot of different pressures. So for us, we started to really open up and talk about what are the stresses that you're feeling. So we immediately also sent out surveys to say, what do you need to be successful at home? So I started sending out furniture to everybody, because that's obviously our business, but what are the tools that you need to be successful at home? So little things like that, getting that survey data so it gives us touch points of how the team is doing. And so the feedback has been great. So over communicating to the team. The other thing is to not lose our culture. So I literally sent everybody at their home a Vari coffee mug. So when we have our Monday meetings at 10 a.m., everybody grabs their coffee mug. And it just became a personal touch to remind them of the culture of who we are about getting together. The other thing is we're still hiring. So I've had onboarding. I think we've onboarded 15 people since we went through this whole work from home initiative. So my team initially said they took cardboard boxes, wrote all the new hires a note, and we mailed it to them and did a virtual onboarding. So again, empowering the teams, leveraging the technologies, and being flexible. And I think really ultimately leading with empathy and love. So listening to everybody out there, and we're all getting through this together. But it's going to create a lot of new opportunities as we think about the new normal of what the workspace will be.
Tell us about any other crisis. You just mentioned SARS and H1N1. What other crises have you been through personally, even before Vari? And
mental crises. I think we've all. Yeah, if you think about I said if I was 25 years old, I would have crashed this company into the ground just based on the amount of growing pains we had by not getting some great people on board and surrounding myself and really investing in technology and things I just wouldn't have done. I also would have borrowed a bunch of money and got investors instead. We built a profitable business so that the flywheel effect of the business could actually carry itself. So I wasn't distracted by raising capital and doing all these things. So really for me, now I'm 50 years old, I've been through storms. And so you think about H1N1 or SARS, and we've been dealing with the swine flu in China for the last 18 months, other things that have happened over there. So we've just sort of learned that businesses evolve and change throughout time. And so, when we went through the crisis of 08, 09, when we went through this demand shock and the trade wars between the US and China, all those to me are just challenges. And you sort of have to decide how you want to deal with them. Are they going to knock you down and you can't figure it out? Or are you going to find a way to react to the facts that you have? I describe growing up in Galveston, I always say, I want to be the eye of the storm. And so as crazy as it is around me, I want to calmly make the best decisions I can and keep moving. And so I always think about that whenever I'm just a touch overwhelmed. And this happens to be one of the harder ones I've been through. But I looked at it immediately with my team, and we recognized all of a sudden we were 100% laptop. My team was able to work from home anyway. We joked that sometimes there's brownouts around here. So I'd always been ready just in case the power went out into the building for the team to run to a Starbucks and work. I wasn't planning on us to work this long remotely, but overnight we shifted our business. So we had just started a multi-million-dollar TV campaign to talk about the new branding with Vari. And immediately in a 72-hour period, my team redid the TV campaign, put out our first discount code ever that we had done. We had never promoted our products at a discount, and said, we're going to help people work from home. Like, we're going to be a part of the solution here. And then as we started to solve that challenge, we said, what is going to be the new normal? Because people are going to want to think about what is the workspace of the future. And immediately, 3 or 4 weeks ago, we pivoted to our teams working on that. So how do we take care of great companies that are solving this challenge, to how do we think about what is the workspace of the future going to be post-COVID, and what's it going to look like in the future as other things hit us? So just really leveraging all that stuff that we're going through.
We do want to encourage people to go on the chat button and be able to ask questions. We do have a first question from Daniel Cortez, who is with our Economic Development Department at the City of Southlake. So his question is, how do you see the office industry changing with the impacts of coronavirus? Read an article recently stating that there may be a push to closed office spaces versus the open collaborating spaces we've been seeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a couple things. So we started temperature checks at our office 3 weeks ago, and I've been traveling to Asia since '96, and about 15 years ago after SARS, you get your temperature checked at every border. So things that are happening in Asia today are also temperature checks that you're seeing at every restaurant that you go to, removing tables in restaurants, and the 6-foot spacing guidelines, less people on elevators. So immediately I also see taking spaces, and actually this whole idea of workspacing where we're spreading people out inside of a space. We're also putting up more and more walls in the space, but we also recognize that flexibility is going to be the key thing as you think about it. So like the walls behind me actually move, so we're adding more walls to our space and more partitions, but they attach, and as time changes and we get better and better at it, we can actually move the acrylic panels or move the walls as we need them. So yes, I don't see it as just being people throwing up sheetrocks or going back to their 1985 cube farm. I don't think that's what people want, because it's not going to attract and retain talent. It's about getting natural light into the space. So we're tripling the number of plants in our space. So creating more living walls, again, as you're thinking about space. There's a lot of other things you're going to see is, instead of the temperature check being an individual gun, so the new system we'll have, I think by Monday, is the ones deployed in high traffic areas that you see at TSA use or the Taipei 101 building, where they have thousands of people walking through. You're immediately able to check temperatures and just double check that you don't have somebody that's got a fever that's entered the building. It scans it, the alarm goes off, and then they're not allowed in the building. Purell Purell and hand sanitizing stations. I always joke that I thought, I'm kind of a germ freak, that we had more than I'd ever seen in a headquarters, but we're tripling that number. And so you picture pool wipes. So I think as you think about real estate, what's going to happen is, instead of being as dense in some of these headquarters, they're going to be a little less dense in the space. And that's going to put less parking pressure and less traffic pressure on some of these buildings. So the overall macro real estate footprint may stay the same, but the amount of people that they try to put per square foot in some of these assets is going to actually go down, which I think will be a healthier thing for all of it. A lot of great companies like TD Industries and such are looking at new ways. They think about air conditioning and air filtration systems. So I think a lot of positive things are going to come out of this. Plus, I think we've all relearned how to wash our hands like we did in kindergarten for 20 seconds versus the quick wipe. So little subtle things that are going to be changes are going to happen. The other thing, for the last 10 years in Asia, anytime somebody is a little under the weather, they're always wearing a mask. And I think that's just going to be a new normal that you see throughout the US. You see a lot of international people already were kind of wearing masks in certain areas of the city. So that's just going to become a more acceptable practice inside of organizations as you start to think about that. We're just going to have to kind of get through that. Also, I think the amount of people that might have gone to work sick because of paid time off, the way that the policies have been written, is actually going to change. So we're going to recommend you check your temperature at home. We're also going to check it when you come in. But just if you're under the weather, we're going to just say work from home. We've proven out that you can work from home or stay home. Just take the day off. And so I think industries are going to continue to evolve and change over that time period. And we're going to learn a lot here over the next few months.
Well, and speaking of that, of industries evolving somehow, your previous model would have been selling a lot of your desks and your spaces to a company. Now they may be shrinking some of their space, and you may be selling more of your equipment, your supplies, your desks to people operating remotely at home. You're still selling, but you're splitting it up from office to individual. That is a bit of a shift of the model, a little bit, I guess.
I think a lot of people got home and worked from home for a few days, and they sat at their kitchen table with their laptop with the kids running around, realized in this new open concept in my house, maybe, suddenly I don't even have an office anymore. A lot of houses may still have an office, but they don't even have like a desk set up properly. So working from home a long time became suddenly a little prohibitive. So we've started working with clients to think about what is the new normal going to be? What % of your team may want some time to work from home? So how do we take a micro version of what you have at the office and give them all the same tools at their house? So maybe they have a 60-inch desk at work, but at their home, they've got a 48-inch desk. They can still sit and stand throughout. They can seamlessly tap in their laptop. And so if they do need to work from home for whatever, they've got a space to do it. So thinking about even marker boards and partitions and spaces, so you can create a mini micro office at your space. Because we do business with clients all over the world. So you think about LinkedIn reached out to us, KPMG, others, and they said, hey, we've suddenly got all these employees at home. What can we do to get them ready? And so getting all of that information out, helping them think about the work from home initiative is going to be a key thing.
Okay, Sterling Smith.
We need to switch. Hey, we're going to switch a battery real quick on this camera. It's I may go dark, but I can still hear you. So keep going. I'm going to keep talking. I'm here.
All right, good. Tell us, Sterling Smith asked about a little bit about what you related to there, and that was about employees working from home will continue, and so companies can start operating in smaller spaces. So you'll have kind of the balance with that. Why don't you talk about the flexibility of companies going smaller, possibly, and then working with the remote staff? Yeah,
and I think every organization is trying to figure out what does it look like for me. And we were talking with Lindsay Wilson, the president of Corgan, one of the incredible architecture firms here that we worked with at Verispace. And what she brought up a great point. It's really by company and by department, and by culture. Every organization is going to go through this process differently. And so for us, and I'll use us as an example, about 25% of our teams will start coming back on Monday, and we're going to start testing it. And we recognize that day 1 versus day 30 versus day 90 is going to be different. Other organizations have a lot of on-the-road consultants. They may only be on the road in the office on Fridays. They're, and we're talking to some clients in other cities. They're thinking, wow, we may go 100% remote because that's sort of how our business was. And we recognized that what we need our workspace for, our office space for, is culture, communication, collaboration. So how do we think about just creating a space where we can drop in when we need it? And so us working with clients, that's the other extreme, is saying each organization and each culture, each department may be different. I think the key thing is this is all going to happen in steps. And so this pendulum has swung all the way to the other side. There's been this shock to the system and said, you're all working from home. And unfortunately, 30 million people were put out of work. And so that's not healthy from a business standpoint. And we know there's pros and cons to it. So it's got to get back to what is the new normal. And I think together, every organization is going to go through this process and learn. I don't see it immediately shifting back to this. I see us hopefully finding a healthy balance in the middle, because you do look at the traffic out there on the roads is a little less. The pollution, I know our family's back and forth to LA a lot. You can definitely see the pollution out there is less. In Asia, our team members over there recognize it. So I think there's a lot of positives that are happening. And there's some areas where productivity increased. So how do you take those things and transform that? So I think that's going to have a macro effect, but I think there's going to be a lot of positives that do come out of it.
We've got a question here from Bob Sifferman about how does Vari differentiate your office space solutions compared to companies like WeWork? Obviously, yours is a permanent spacing rather than theirs, but compare what your offices will look like versus, of course, we can look behind you a little bit and see some.
Yeah, so if you've toured a WeWork, what they create is a whole bunch of rooms and and the desk size in there, which you got down to where it was 48 inches by 24, and there's a lot of people in these spaces, and it's designed to put a lot of people into a bunch of different rooms. And so that's a market that attacks smaller spaces where 4 or 5 people need a workspace to work in, or a person of 20 at a company need a space to work in. We sort of fall into a different tier. So we don't do month-to-month rentals. The space is designed to be much larger. Also, because our walls move, and our lights move, and our furniture is all designed to move, we envision the space as being this organic thing, almost like a canvas that ebbs and flows as your business needs change. Because sometimes you're shrinking, sometimes you're growing, or sometimes just by moving the furniture in your house, you recognize that the energy of your space changes. We come in and every 3 to 6 months actually change space for our clients based upon their needs. So if they're not using a conference room, they need another office for an executive, they need more collaboration space, or they need war rooms set up. So a lot of the tech firms, we set up agile tech strategies for them. So they work in an agile framework. So they may have teams of 4, 8, or 10, and they're working on sprints over 2-week times to deploy software. And they want war rooms set up that are permanently up, and all of our walls are writable. So they're actually working in war rooms. And so we're thinking about those projects end, and then they need to deploy the team somewhere else. So we worked on a project with Google, and out there, Rhonda said she's got 60,000 employees in the Google area that she's responsible for, and 45,000 of them move to a different project or a different space every year. That's what the companies of the future are going to be thinking about, is flexing and ebbing and flowing their space based upon their business needs, as opposed to a set it and forget it, put up a bunch of sheetrock. And so that's kind of so WeWork's actually targeting a different audience than us. We also do longer leases, so 3 to 5 years. That allows companies to sort of get into a rhythm with us. We're not month to month and those types of things. And that's a different niche that there's plenty of companies. Common Desk is an awesome one out there that support that. So there's great companies out there that are supporting that model. And we just have we sort of play in the middle space out there.
Jason, we have right here another question from, well, here it is right here. How do you feel that remote working and schedule flexibility will affect the formal vacation, sick, and PTO for employees? You addressed it a little bit. So tell us what you think about officially how that's going to happen.
Yeah, well, I think what's happened is sick leave got bundled with paid time off, and it became this one simple number for a lot of organizations. And so people said, oh, I'm kind of sick, I don't want to waste a PTO day, I'm just going to come into the office. And unfortunately, we've seen what happens, right? It just wipes out organizations. So being open and honest about that and trying to figure out, I'm healthy enough to work, but I've got a 99-degree fever, I feel okay, but I shouldn't come in. And then if I can actually work from home, maybe I can do that. So I think each organization is going to try to figure that out over time here. And I think HR executives all over are trying to figure out what is this going to look like in the future. But I think everybody's going to be much more aware of health and wellness. And it's not just that, it's also going to be the mental health side of it, because I think a lot of people are very stressed out there, especially right now, but even in organizations under normal things, thinking about making sure that mental health is also a part of the discussion, so that everybody's got not only a physically healthy organization, but a mentally healthy organization and team members as well that might just need a day to chillax and get out of here and get some vitamin D, which we know is good for them. I'm actually taking one tomorrow with my kids. And so just to recharge, because we all need it. And as leaders, you got to remember, I know I've got 350 families on top of thousands of customers that rely on the decisions I make, but I too have got to make sure I'm sleeping and eating right and take care of myself. Otherwise, I'm not doing them any justice either. So, I've been open about my emails to my teams, said I know some of your vacations may have been deferred, but still find time off to recharge, because I need you at 100%. I can't do this without you. And so I think being very open as a leader about that and having those conversations with your team members will increase the healthiness of your culture and ultimately create a better, healthier organization, which is really the key to long-term success.
We appreciate Nicole Tesorio for asking that question. Tell us about, as you're anticipating the changes in the workplace, and you're bringing employees back to keep them safe. Tell us about additional concepts that you're thinking of for 6 months, a year down the road. I mean, one of the great things about the great innovators is they're thinking a year, 2, 3, 5 years down the road. How has this coronavirus changed your thought leaping forward for 3 and 5 years ahead?
Well, I think, again, I think the pendulum is hit so hard. So I think there's going to be this process that we're all going through. So I think it's right now just focused on staying in the pocket is what just trying to stay here to learn what works and what doesn't over the near term. Long term, I think that everybody's going to just take a much more a healthier stance on what does a healthy organization ultimately look like. And so thinking about workspace is a key component of that. I think it's also going to impact schools and the way we think about what's worked and what hasn't on the school side, because we do a lot of standing desks and spaces for kids as well. So thinking about all these things that are working for organizations. So I don't think there's going to be any downtrend in continuing to put health and wellness. So, we have gyms on site in our spaces, the showers, the shampoos, all that and towel service, those things to recruit talent, but also to show that there's an importance of health and wellness. By us having virtual yoga right now, because we normally do yoga on site here, so I've got yoga at 12:30 after this with my staff virtually, having that on the space and incorporating health and wellness into your space and having it accessible to your area for your employees, I think is going to be a key thing. Just like with the schools, finding that balance between what do the sports initiatives mean versus classroom time. I also think we're going to continue to learn that there's elements about work from home that work. And so as the Zooms and MS Teams and those technologies and the bandwidth, because I think Netflix sucked down half the bandwidth, so people were complaining about their Zoom meetings from home. So I think as those bandwidth things get addressed, those are going to be positive things that we learn. But I do recognize people don't want to sit at their house all day and just never leave and just live in this virtual world. We need human interaction out there. But I'm actually quite introverted, and so I need moments to totally recharge without people around me as well too. So I think each organization is going to go through this. I think also just by us putting up the acrylic panels, we're also doing more single seating versus sofa seating. So we're also testing some new cleaning agents. So you're seeing Marriott and the planes are all trying to figure this out too. So a lot of new cleaning agents. Over 1% of my staff is already dedicated to cleaning. So I have 4 full-time cleaners, which most organizations with 350 people don't have 4 people dedicated to cleaning a space. So I think that some of those things are going to become basics for a lot of organizations as they start to think about the future of creating their space, getting a healthy organization and a healthy space being a part of that.
All right. Another question as we look behind you, we're seeing concrete floors. So tell us about not using carpet, upholstery materials, et cetera, that can cause health hazards.
Yeah, we're huge believers in polished concrete. One, it's an affordable solution, it's durable, it's long-term. I think a lot of offices, they drop down carpet, and once you kind of have hardwood floors in your house, you don't really want carpet everywhere. So it's sort of a germ thing. Dan and we're like anti-carpet as much as possible. And so we have some rugs down from Wayfair that we tuck into a space to soften it just a little bit. We just believe the way you walk into a Costco or a Lowe's, polished concrete is timeless, it's durable, and it's very clean. And so I think thinking about surfaces that are like that are very easy to clean, are going to continue to come up. So the fabrics that are used, everything being surface wipeable. They're even talking about spaces where people won't leave all their stuff out on their desk at night, so they can kind of put it up, which will declutter space. And then when they come in and clean it every night, it will be the entire space will be clean, whether it's UV or wipes or whatever, all the different solutions that I think a lot of different companies are working on. So I just think continuing the evolution of healthier spaces and surface materials will definitely be a part of that conversation. Also, people taking care of themselves. So you think about us, right now there's a whole bunch of wipes on everybody's desk, just the nature of it. But I'm envisioning more pull stations, like when you're at a gym, or just like when you're getting the cart at the grocery store, that little pull wipe thing. A lot of those things are going to be deployed in spaces again, so that everything is wipeable and cleanable. That trend is going to continue to be a key thing of just all spaces as we think about it. And I know airlines and movie theaters and restaurants are going to experience that too, which everybody's going to have to figure out. Costs will increase, and we'll all get through it together.
And we appreciate Denise Carino for asking that question. Daniel Cortez has another, and that is, what potential are you seeing for other office solutions or products now that you didn't see 2 months ago?
Yeah, so it was interesting, like when we launched our acrylic panels and I started putting them up in our space, people started taking them down because it all of a sudden became these, barriers between collaboration. And so I put them back in storage. Very few clients were buying them. Overnight, obviously, everybody suddenly wants an acrylic panel all over their space. So as we're redoing our entire headquarters here to reopen on Monday, we've been moving space. We got acrylic panels everywhere. We've launched taller acrylic panels, so 24 inches tall. We can do even taller. So if you look at some of the break rooms in areas in Asia and some of the things we're studying from all over the world in Germany and other countries, you're setting up break rooms with acrylic panels, other things. I'm going to put some of that out. We're going to see what happens out here. Those are things that I didn't envision because they almost are so constrictive to the energy of a space, but we're going to try it and just learn from it from that standpoint. Also things, we know that biophilia is an important thing, and I didn't know what that word was 5 years ago. AT&T taught me that on a tour here. It's really bringing plant life and natural life into the space. So I had already done that. And for us, we have 350 employees. It's about $300 a month. So just a dollar per employee per month to maintain our plants. Well, I'm actually going to triple the plants. I'm doing some wall stuff. Those are things that we don't sell, but it creates great energy in a space, and it's just healthier to have more and more plant life, and it's not that expensive. So we'll actually incorporate it with our walls so that we can put the walls in, and so people can have living walls in their space, and then these companies come through and services. It's a simple investment, but it's amazing what it changes the energy of your space. For us too, I used to have a single coffee bar where I called it a collision point because everybody would go there and it forced us to get together. What I've had to do is rethink that. So now they put down the floor markings and the traffic things, just like you're seeing at grocery stores. And I've now opened up a second coffee bar in another area. So I'm actually going to force my teams to be decentralized, which is going to put a test on culture. But I recognize for the safety and health of my employees, spreading out my coffee, having more Purell stations and wipe stations at every touch point is actually a good thing. The other thing is we don't believe in doors much. And so, but I'm actually challenging it even further by removing even more doors in the space. So our gym even has a pull handle. I'm just making it a push only. So every single touch point that we can eliminate in the design of the space, we're going to go through and we're challenging, do we need that door? Do we need that touch point? And I'm going to try to see how many I can eliminate as we think about the future of space, learning from all these great companies that are out there, because I look at it like we're all in this together. So if I can share an idea that works and it can work out there for another organization or a school or can help another country, I think all of us are in this storm right now together, and these things will come and go and hit us. So how do we create spaces that we can all be healthier for together? So I think I think a whole lot of great companies are going to come out of this with great solutions and new revenue streams and new profitability models, which would be awesome.
So you talked about great companies. You've mentioned Google and you've mentioned FedEx and some others. Of course, you can get some great ideas from people that are totally not in your industry at all. If you were to say, these are the 6 or 8 great companies that I want to cross-pollinate with, who are some of those and why?
Well, my favorite companies out there, and I think the way that we built our business model was based on initially the customer service that Zappos had 7 years ago. And that was saying, hey, if you don't like our furniture, we'll take it back. That was the Zappos model at the time, which was a very forward-thinking thing 7 years ago. I also think Southwest Airlines, although poor Gary and the team have been dealt a very challenging blow from a revenue perspective, they built one of the most amazing cultures at scale that I've ever seen. Plus, they focus on value. So I think that business model works. When we started to enter the furniture industry, everybody in the furniture industry talks about list and discount. You got to buy from a dealer. It's like the old days of buying a car versus transparency and authenticity with the relationship with the customer. I believe the way that Sam built Walmart and Jim built Costco and the way that Jack Bogle built Vanguard on everyday value. And that's how we built our model. And once Tesla started to prove that you don't need dealers or distributors to sell your product, you can't have a direct relationship with the customer. And the same way that Amazon has built their business model, that's how we built Vari. We said we want to lean on companies like the way that Apple designs products and the way that Tesla thinks about products, but we want to try to sell them direct to the end user so I can have that direct relationship with the fan base and the customer. So those are some of the great organizations that I benchmark with as I think about it from a macro scale, because that helps me sort of set the bar really high. Those are timeless organizations, because I said at Vari, I said I would love the opportunity to build the company of my dreams that can live beyond my lifetime. And so what are those companies out there that I believe can withstand the test of time? And they're ultimately business models. And so thinking about that, getting the culture right, getting our business model right, continuing that relationship. We call it a career-long and a lifelong relationship with our fan base. And so getting those relationships right will allow this business to ultimately, I believe, live beyond my lifetime and be one of the great brands like a Starbucks, like a Walmart, like a Costco, like a Vanguard. So there's some, Southwest, Apple. I mean, all of those, I think, have got elements of them that I just admire out there as we think about great businesses.
Do some of your customers, some of your clients, do they become an actual living lab for you so that you supply what you have as a current solution, and then you stay in contact with them and say, hey, I want to test this out a little bit. Would you be interested in us bringing this new concept to this portion of your business? How do you address those and approach people like that?
Yeah, so I would say we've got an incredible fan base out there. We definitely lean on them with our product ideas. So when we started getting our fans emailing us jerry-rigged photos of monitor arms attached to our first Varidesk back in the day, we said, okay, we can create a better monitor arm system. So we did. But I didn't know anything about monitor arms, so I got 100 of them in here. Uber, the White House, some of our great early customers. I said, hey, I just want to send it out to you. So we sent out 100 samples to all of our customers and got feedback. Tweaked it, updated the instructions a little, tweaked the box design, and boom, we were off and running. So every single product launch we test in our headquarters here. This is a living, breathing ideation lab and showroom. And then we also show it to our clients. So whether it's at Verispace, so Verispace Southlake will definitely be an ideation lab for us because it's the perfect space. And being based here in the DFW area, this is like the perfect market for us to run a global business because we have access to so many great companies to get feedback from. Our first two clients that we got feedback from were Verizon and the Container Store when we sold our first product. Today we get feedback from hundreds of customers because we've got over 25,000 of them that were corporate ones that we're doing business with. So when we're launching our privacy pods, if you picture a phone booth, our very first ones kind of look like the London phone booths. And so we got them in here and people thought that was clever. And if you needed to make a call to mom, you stepped in there with your cell phone and you had a moment of privacy. What happened was when we started shipping them, we couldn't fit them on a freight elevator because they were giant and they weighed so much, a team couldn't even move them. So suddenly my team learned by getting feedback from our customers, one, it was at the loading dock, we can't even get it in the office, to how do we create the next generation of those? So that creates product conversations. So that gave us, feedback on the walls. That's how we got into soft seating. I wasn't planning on doing seating or chairs, but customers started asking us about it. So I started bringing in samples, setting out the chairs, and suddenly we're one of the largest sellers of office chairs. And now we're going to be one of the largest sellers of soft seating in the industry because clients get it. We have a trust that's built with the Vari brand, and we have a relationship with them. If it's not right, I fix it, and I learn with them. And I'm totally open to learning and feedback. And that's why I say you want the good, bad, and the ugly. You want, I need it all. I don't want to find out I've got a 4.77. I look at the ones, I look at the 3 stars. I'm trying to figure out how to build this infinite game business that can last forever. Ultimately, you do that by building trust and awareness. So that's the journey that we're on today.
Well, speaking of that, Jason, you talked about the soft seating with the chairs there. Did y'all decide to work with an existing vendor, or did you start creating your own?
Yeah, so initially we had started to reach out to some vendors that are in that category and say, hey, could we sell your product? We go through these business debates. Am I going to create our own product line, or are we going to do it? We tested a few models that didn't work. They just didn't have our quality standard and our pricing model. And so we ultimately decided to create our own. So we've created our own line. I think we've got about 30 items in our offering today. We've got another 40 or 50 that we're concepting right now. So you picture you sit in the chair and it's got maybe some panels on it, you know, that'll be out here in the next few weeks. So you can kind of sit in there and recharge a little bit, put on your app, you know, and do your Mindspace or your Headspace app and recharge for a little bit. And we created like little Zen rooms with our walls. So we just kind of create a mini office where you could just kind of get out of the work for a little bit and recharge. And so all these things are just things that we're learning. So ultimately we recognize we have to control the quality, the design, and the distribution of our products. So by doing that, we start to, you know, we keep creating all the new product ideas that we're launching.
What is a little known nugget about Vari that will kind of shock us a little bit? Either how, I mean, you've gone from putting gorillas in the yard or Santa in the yard to now 25,000 corporate customers all around the world, not just around the United States. What's some little known nugget that would shock us?
Well, it blew me away the first time I read the number that we're in 98% of the Fortune 500 companies with product. And they were trying to find another brand that might have 98% penetration, and maybe it's Charmin or Coca-Cola, but probably not. And so to think about that from a penetration standpoint, also, I didn't really understand the power of net promoter scores. And so for all the marketing people out there, we have an 82 net promoter score. And that's like, people love it, like an Apple, like a Tesla. And the number one word that people write in the reviews about us is, I love my Veridesk. They write the word love. And the first time I read that, I went, okay, we no longer have customers, we have fans. And how do we build that lifelong and career-long relationship with our fan base? And so thinking about that has elevated our vision to what we can do. Because when we started our journey, it was, how do we create a happier, healthier, more productive workspace? Sitting is the new smoking, right? We were figuring this thing out. You know, we didn't have any employees. It was Dan and I driving around as just kind of an idea incubated inside of Jemmy, to now realizing we can build the company of our dreams that can live beyond our lifetime. So elevating the vision, and by now going from Veridesk, because most people still think of us as that desk on top of desk product, to I've got to build awareness that we're much bigger than that. And the companies that we have out there, I think we can make a much bigger impact on culture and innovation through what we're thinking about in the future, and building healthy organizations, I think, than I ever thought. So I know we're just getting started, and the best is yet to come.
I think that's the impressive part right there, Jason, is that you're realizing that where you are is not the end result. This is a step with a very high trajectory to keep on going to.
Yeah, it's an amazing sense of responsibility, and you know, you have those moments there. You're the tip of the spear, so it's pretty hot. But ultimately, I believe we're on the right mission. We've got the values. The team is incredible, and we've got a great opportunity. And I think we're dealing with the same pressures that all organizations are fighting through right now. You got to find a way to survive this chapter. And then how do you emerge on the other side? A stronger team, stronger culture, you know? So we built a rallying cry for the last about 5 weeks ago when this whole storm hit. I'd heard this quote 15 years ago from a friend of mine after the SARS thing hit. He said, you've got to keep rowing until the wind catches your sails. And I told that story to my team, and I said, our focus right now is we're going to keep rowing until the wind catches our sails. We're going to power through this storm and emerge stronger. And so that broke into three things. We're going to figure out work from home. We're going to help people think about and plan for the new normal and what does that look like. And ultimately, we're going to grow. But I wanted to grow our culture. I want to grow relationships with our team members. I want to grow our fan base. I want to grow our brand. But I need each of you to lean in and grow and take this time. So we have Vari University. We've been doing leadership training. They're sending out latest TED Talks. We're still doing our book clubs. We're just doing them via Zoom. All these little things, because if I can continue to build a healthy organization, I can weather the storm. I can emerge stronger and healthier, and I can help a lot more companies get through this in the future as they think about what is it going to be like. So we're literally in the middle of it today. You see my team walking around behind me, we have transformed the entire space because that's how we think about space anyway. But we're saying, let's get ready for it. And whatever we learn, because it's not going to be perfect, we're going to share with our fans out there and grow.
What's the biggest piece of advice you can give to business owners?
Yeah, I thought about this. You know, I've had so many friends get laid off, or they're executives in organizations that have had to furlough employees and are very, very challenged by it. And I was thinking back to storms I've weathered here. And I thought about 20 years ago, I started snowboarding. And 15 years ago, I decided I wanted to be better at snowboarding because I was a horrible snowboarder. So I hired this kid on the mountain in Colorado, and I hired him for the day just to teach me. And so he started at the basics, putting on my strap and taught me how to get on the lift. And I was like, oh my God, what is he doing? And we started going down the mountain. He said, I'm going to teach you how to cut through the trees. And I'm like, I do not want to cut through the trees. I've hit some trees. I don't want to. No, I'm going to teach you how. And so he started taking me towards these trees, and I hit some trees. And he goes, quit looking at the trees, find the lanes, lift your eyes up, and that's where you're going to go. And he's like, dude, you got this. And I'm like, dude, I got this. Okay. So I ride back up the mountain. I start carving with this kid, and I'm starting to go through the trees. What I recognize is where you put your eyes and your mind and you keep focusing your energy, that's where you're going to go. And I told this to my team the other day on our all company meeting. I said, I hadn't thought about that story in a while. And I was like, that's just one of those things I lean on when I'm really coming down the mountain fast. Quit looking at the trees and all the obstacles and find those lanes of opportunity. So I think for all of us, we're going through this together. Find those windows of hope, opportunity, enjoy the family dinners that you're getting to have, or the time with your kids. Try to think about your business and your team. Continue to lead with empathy and love, and find those lanes to get through this, because dude, you got it, and you can get through this thing. I did, and we're going through it right now, and it's not perfect. It's hard. There are moments where my team, I lay it all out there, and I was not this transparent as I've ever been in my career life, but I recognize it's more imperative than ever that I put it out there. So that we can power through this. So that would be my advice to all of y'all as you're thinking about your business, the city, the other industries you impact. Continue to help your teams get through this and find those snow lanes.
I tell you, wrapping it up where we can be exactly 60 minutes, you are a pro. Jason McCann, thank you so much. Our CEO of Vari and Vari Space. Thank you so much with your new location. You're going to be opening August 1st, right about August 1st here in the Southlake.
Well, as soon as we figure it out, we'll have a lunch out there and have y'all all out. We'll have a meeting at Vari Space. We'll host it there. This will be fun. Finally get to shake everybody's hand again, or fist bump, or elbow, or heart over hand and wave, whatever it is. We'll figure it out.
We appreciate Katie Norwood from your office helping you put this together. On behalf of the Southlake Chamber of Commerce, thank you very much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and you've got your yoga coming up in just a little while. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.